Well, hello there today. My name is Mark Seiden, and welcome to Workman Wisdom. So today we're going to talk about sales and objection handling techniques, sales scripts and objection handling techniques. And actually, it's really pretty simple. But what you really have to make sure is that you are always animated. I call it being Disney. You always want to be Disney. So what are the secrets to the success? Well, they're right here. One, always be honest. Don't lie. Don't make stuff up. Just say the truth. And the more truth that you say, the more people will believe you. And please learn this. It is not what you say, but it's how you say it. Now, I've been married for 25 years, and there are times that my wife will put something on that I don't really think looks great on her. So if I just say, hey, honey, you look fat in that dress, it's honest, but I won't have a 26th year of marriage. So you need to learn how to say things in a different way, like, gee, honey, that's okay, but that other spring dress that you had with the flowers on it? Wow, that one was great. And I basically just said the same thing, but hey, did I say it differently? The other thing is to make sure is that whatever you say, you always want to make sure that it's from the consumer point of view. It must benefit the consumer. What do I mean by that? Well, if you have buyers that come to the office, which is what's highly recommended to do, you really don't want to just say, well, listen, that's just the way we do it. Because if you put the line in the sand, it's very easy for the buyers to put the line in the sand and say, no. But why would it benefit the consumer? Well, it's really simple. If you come to the office, we have this really big screen, and while we're there, we can look at everything that's on the market and that's in contract, and even the stuff that's sold, so we can show you why something got the money that it did. We'd like to educate you about the market, so when you go in and see that house, and if there's three offers on it, you really know whether it's worth the money or not, as opposed to going into the house first and saying, now what? So if you give a great explanation to benefit the consumers, you will convince more people. Also, make sure you quote laws where it's applicable. We get a lot of questions about schools, churches, children, and most of those, and there are many, many more, are actually against fair housing standards. And there's federal, and there's state, and there are a lot of local ones. So it's really easy not to answer a question for someone and just tell someone, I cannot answer that question because it violates the federal fair housing standards. And I only work one way, legally, and another way, ethically. And so if it does violate any law, we just won't do it. Because if you violate one, I will guarantee you, one's going to be violating a lot more. And it really is a get-out-of-jail-free card, pardon the pun, if you just quote the laws. Also remember, when you're doing scripts, dialogues, objection handling techniques, it's a show. And there's at no time can you just not have a good day and don't want to say it. And how I've been able to tell this to a lot of agents is, picture this. You go to New York City. You go to a show in New York City. All the actors are on stage. You just paid $199 per ticket, and if you're going to the show with you and a special loved one, that's $400 right there. But wait, you probably bought some new clothes. But wait, you probably had dinner beforehand, so you're into the night for $1,000. And if you walked in there after spending $1,000, and the person on the stage, you know what? He just wasn't having a good day, and he did a terrible acting job on stage. Would that be okay with you as a consumer who just spent $1,000? Well, let's turn this around. If you're with a buyer or a seller and you're looking for them to buy or sell something that, let's say, hundreds of thousands of dollars, are you allowed just to say, so what do you think? This price, that price. You always have to put on a show. You always want to make sure that you create a visual for them too. And this kind of goes right into giving an analogy. A lot of people really don't understand real estate when you talk real estate. What does that mean? Well, if you're having a problem with a buyer, a challenge with a buyer that wants to put in an offer for $200,000 when the house is really worth $250,000. I don't care what it's listed for. I'm talking about what it's worth. And they're going through house upon house upon house, and they're just not getting any. They really sometimes don't understand. You're putting it up price that's too low. So give them a visual, give them an analogy. What we basically say is, okay, if you have $30,000 and you want to buy a car, and $30,000 is a lot of money, but you go to a Mercedes dealership and keep going from dealership to dealership to dealership and saying, hey, I want that car, which is $45,000, and there's plenty of people willing to pay $45,000 for the car. Do you think if you keep going from dealership to dealership, you're going to get that $45,000 car for $30,000? I don't think so. So if you give a visual and give an analogy, a lot of times light bulbs will go on in someone's head, and that's a great objection handling technique to use with your consumers. And the last thing is, the best way to convince someone of something is for you not to convince them, but for them to be convinced themselves. And the way that you do that is you ask a lot of questions. And I actually did that a little bit during this little presentation to you when I asked you some questions of, do you really think you're going to get that car for $30,000 if there's a bunch of people looking to spend $45,000? And in your brains, I know you said no. So another trick to do that is, at the end of a statement, if you haven't asked the question yet, you can just say, so hey, does that make sense? And I will guarantee you, your brain just answered. A lot of people's mouths won't answer, but it's impossible for the brain not to answer. So once they do, they just self-actualized. Basically, how do you master your scripts and objections? It's really pretty simple. There's only two things. There's a great riddle that I like to quote all the time, and it's an old riddle. And for the performing artists, they always used to say, so, how does one get to play in Carnegie Hall? And the answer is always three words: practice, 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 which leads to role play. The way to do this is you practice, you role play. How do actors and actresses learn their lines? They practice, they role play, they rehearse over and over and over again and get feedback from others so they can end up being convincing. And once you've mastered it and you are the best person on the planet, do you know what you do after that? Role play. Because the more people that you role play with, the more different kind of objections you'll hear, and you'll now have to learn more objection handling techniques because someone just threw you a curveball that you never heard before. But if you can learn them and master them, you'll be great with everybody. And lastly, to start with your scripts and objection handling techniques, let's not go to second, third, and fourth level courses until you've mastered the basics. And here are the basics. LP Mama for buyers, expireds and FSBOs mostly for sellers, commission objection handling techniques, which are, gee, you charge one commission, but the client kinda, can you come down 0.5%? There's some great objection handling techniques for that. And here's the last one. You have to have your own 60-second commercial. Why should they choose you instead of anybody else? And I'm begging you, oh my begging you, please don't say, because I give great service. Because guess how many real estate agents say that during the presentation? 99.947% say the same thing. Giving that kind of answer is like attempting to buy a car. Oh, an analogy. Coming to buy a car and saying, hey, why should I buy that car? And the guy says, because there's an engine in it. I think there's an engine in all of them. So create a great 60-second commercial for yourself that's all about why it should be you and you alone compared to everybody else. I hope this helps you today. If you need any more information, believe you me, Workman Success Systems has everything. And if they don't, they'll make it for you. Have a great day.